You know, you might want to think about doing something out here. You know,
What?
you know what an exorcism is?
Yeah.
You know, what happened out here, that's no good. Something like that. You know, no good. Out. Out. Out in the name of Jesus! Out! Out! In the name of Jesus. Out!
Okay. Now things will grow.
You have landed on The Substance, a podcast aiming at being biblical, thoughtful, and human. Join us each week as we engage the culture without the culture war. I'm your host, Trevor Aiken. Join with my two co-hosts, Philip Marinello.
Hey, everybody.
And Vincent Edwards.
What he do?
And special guest, first one to return 3 times. You know him, you love him already. Senior editor at the Gospel Coalition, Brett McCracken.
Hey
If
guys.
we had like a soundboard, there'd be like massive. We could press the massive applause button.
I know. I feel very esteemed to be your third time guest, so thank you.
We were talking about that on the episode we released recently because we've all been kind of super busy just talking about the course of the show, how we're not a guest-based show, but we've managed to get some serious and legit guests, and thank you for your generosity. I think getting to have somebody who has done the body of work you do on the show so early, I think was definitely helpful for us, so we appreciate that a whole lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
100%.
No, it was fun. Both of the times we talked Malik, I think, right? For
We
both.
did,
Yes.
So you
Tree
never.
Life and a Hidden Life. So this is the first non-Terrence Malick.
And Malik sticks with you. Those movies continue to weigh on my mind.
You
And
just introduced your family to a Hidden Life recently,
introduced,
right?
yeah, I
Little
introduced
sidebar.
my father-in-law.
Wow.
And
How did that go?
He really enjoyed it, I think.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
he was the scene with the painter. I
Yes.
mean, it's just
The comfortable Christ.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a heavy hitter.
Oh,
It's
which reminds me, yeah,
amazing.
Malik's new movie's coming out not too long from now. That'll certainly be worth talking about.
And when you first pitched this one to me, you said maybe there was Maliki
Yeah, a little
elements?
Malick-esque is what I got from it. So,
For
as
sure.
you guys have seen since you clicked on it, the movie we're talking about on today's Substantive Cinema episode is Minari, written and directed by Lee Isaac Chung. It has won all the awards. It's been nominated for, if you check on IMDb, it's been nominated for over 200 awards.
Wow.
For various things.
Wow.
Most notably, it got a lot of Oscar nominations. It won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, and it's won a number of other awards as well. And Brett, you've been a champion of this film for quite a while.
Yeah, I have, and it's been kind of surreal, honestly, to see it get all the awards and get all the acclaim, because I've followed Isaac Chung's career from the beginning, back when he got his start in, I think, 2007 with Munir and Gabo, which I was a big
That was his Rwanda movie, right?
It was his Rwanda movie, and it was championed by a lot of important critics. So, like Roger Ebert, like he was like a big proponent of Munir and Gabo when it came out at Cannes, and I got to interview Isaac
Oh, wow.
when that film came out, and I published the interview at Christianity Today because he's a Christian. So I'm sure you know that, and so he has a lot of interesting things to say about his faith and being an artist and being a filmmaker and being a Christian. And Munir and Gabo, if you haven't seen it, is very deeply Christian in its exploration of reconciliation in post-genocide Rwanda and kind of resurrection themes. So it's been cool to see, he's only made a couple more films, I think, since that movie. And actually, I think he kind of almost gave up on filmmaking.
Really?
He did. Minari is very kind of the story. From what the research I did,
Why?
Money, like
Bro, really?
the story of Minari, and it's somewhat autobiographical.
Yeah.
He was the little boy when his dad came here for the farm,
He
but
just
also
had, like, the memories.
the idea of the guy going out on one last chance, like trying to make a thing work, like it's kind of meta. Like that's kind of like what he was doing with Minari itself, and like there's a lot of layers to it if you go back. Quick question before we move forward, Brett, is that interview behind a paywall now, or is that widely available?
I think it is. Most of Christianity Today's like archived movie content
So
is behind
frustrating.
a paywall. I know. Sorry, I can't. I find it frustrating too because sometimes I like want to look up an old review that I've written about some movie and it's behind a paywall. So bummer.
Yeah, I texted you. I just
Local
showed
library,
some
man.
friends Prisoners for the first time, and I went to go send them your article, and I couldn't get it.
Yeah.
I know. Boo on paywalls.
So if you're listening, Christianity Today,
Right. I get it. You need money, but it's
put it
frustrating.
out.
Yeah.
Minari is a widely acclaimed film, but because it is, there's a significant amount that's foreign language, and it's kind of a little personal movie. Brett, you want to give the listeners a synopsis if they're not already familiar?
Yeah. It's like you mentioned. It's kind of an autobiographical story of Isaac Chung's own childhood, being kind of son of Korean immigrants who I guess were farmers in California, but then moved to Arkansas and kind of really in pursuit of the American dream. So this is kind of a movie that grapples with the American dream, also from an immigrant point of view. And we can talk about that because I think the movie actually has a really, just complicated relationship with the American dream.
I think that's a huge theme.
It's a huge theme. So essentially they moved to Arkansas. They, the dad, Jacob is his name. He basically moves his family here, basically saying we're going to like have our own Eden, right? The promised land. We're going to like have this great flourishing farm. And his wife is super skeptical, and they have 2 little kids, and then the grandma also comes to live with them. So there's a lot riding. The stakes are high on whether they'll actually be able to turn a profit and live at least some sort of flourishing life in this transplanted place of Arkansas. And the whole movie, I think, is just this series of ups and downs and all the challenges that come with trying to pursue that Eden-like paradise, which is an illusion. It's an illusion, right? It's something we always long for as humans. We're always trying to recover Eden, right? There's nothing that drives the human soul, I think, more than just the specter, the haunting of Eden, and wanting to kind of recapture that. And that's how this movie, I think, is evocative of Terrence Malick, because that's a major theme throughout Terrence Malick's movies, is kind of the idea paradise is lost, but we can recover it again, and we can kind of have a fresh start. The New World, that movie is literally about that. We can have a fresh start in the New World. So there's a lot of that classic, not only American optimism of fresh starts and new beginnings and resurrection, but just Christian theological ideas about trying to recover that lost, elusive dream of Eden. So,
So, Britt, did you get to see this a long time ago, kind of pre-pandemic? Because this movie's release, I felt so bad for everybody involved, because it's winning all the awards, but not a lot of people got to see it in the theater, which is really the best way to see it.
Totally.
Like, and on VOD, it's kind of challenging. Like, you only get to watch it in your house. You don't get to go with people.
Sure.
And I mean, it's just kind of like, I couldn't imagine putting blood, sweat, and tears into writing, directing, producing a film, and then not really being able to release it into the world.
Yeah, sadly, no. I haven't seen this movie on the big screen. I saw it just on a video, like on my computer, a private screening link that critics get. I think I saw it in December. So yeah, it is sad. And that's true of all the great movies that came out last year. Like, I haven't seen Nomadland on the big screen. Like, I would love to see Sound of Metal on the big screen.
Oh, man, that would be great on the big screen.
It's a bummer, but I love what Frances McDormand, in her Best Actress acceptance speech, or maybe it was for her acceptance speech for Nomadland winning Best Picture, she said that thing about, like, okay, now everyone needs to, like, get a bunch of friends, go to the biggest screen you can find this summer, now that they're all open, and like see these movies on the big screen. because that's what they're made for. And a movie like Minari, which is so beautifully shot, and this as intimate as the scale is, this is really just a film about one family unit, and it has a beautiful intimacy to it. There's some shots that are really epic and kind of captures that American mythology of the American farmer trying to make a go of it against all odds. So it's a big screen movie. I would love to see it on the big screen one day.
I kind of want to talk about a couple of the themes here, but Trev, so what did you think of this when you saw it?
Yeah, initial impressions was...
I'm very curious about that.
So I went in knowing next to nothing about the film.
That's
and probably still know next to nothing about the film, to be honest. but Philip had kind of told me, hey, it's this heartwarming flick, about...
So I thought it was going to be.
About this, family trying to get the American dream. And then a couple months go by, and then he tells me, okay, actually, maybe it's not so heartwarming. So I was like, all right, now I really don't know what to expect. And so I just kind of watched it, kind of not really knowing what to expect in either direction, whether it was going to be tragic or... I kept, actually, the whole time, I kept waiting. This is a spoiler alert right here.
Oh, we didn't do that at the top. We're going to talk about the movie.
We're going to talk about the movie.
You don't need to hold back.
Yeah, so...
Go watch it.
Pause,
go run it.
watch,
Don't
come
worry,
back.
it's not an M. Night Shyamalan movie, so there's
there's
not
no
twists
like
and
major...
things.
But I kept thinking the kid's going to die. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and watch this kid die, am I? But
I was waiting for the kid or the grandmother to die the whole time.
I was too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was pleasantly surprised that did not happen. So
because they foreshadowed it, or the mom to take her own life. Like they kept foreshadowing all these things.
There was a bunch of things.
A dark turn.
Yeah, there was a bunch of things that I was like, okay, does this go dark? But my experience of it was it gradually winning me over to these characters, and especially the young kid and the grandma, their relationship. And kind of these themes that I don't directly relate to, but are a kind of quintessentially American experience of the immigrant and then the Americanized second generation kid, and bridging that gap. That was wonderful. I enjoyed the family versus job dialectic that it was kind of having a conversation about.
Yeah.
Starting out a new adventure, and like the husband and wife, the pressure on a husband for a venture to succeed, and the wife's skepticism.
Who can relate to that?
That hit home a lot of ways too. And so many different aspects of the film that were just, I just found myself relating to those characters. The kid being kids are evil. How can the notion everyone is just born okay and then is corrupted by society survive first contact with any number of children?
That's true. Original sin is an easy concept for parents to understand.
I know. I'm just like, oh man, that kid's evil, and I definitely see those in that same thing play out in my house sometimes.
Dude, when he was gonna get disciplined and he brought back the little thing, I thought that was the best. That got like a belly laugh out of me.
Oh my goodness. That was
funny. Vince, what about you? Brief thoughts on the film.
Yeah, same as Trev. I didn't go in with any expectations. I'm not I don't typically seek out drama movies, just because it's not my flavor. But this was surprisingly really good, and it got me about first 7 to 10 minutes in. I was like, okay, I'm paying attention now. Okay, what's going on? And so just that kind of draw of wanting to know what's going on. And like you said, Trev, there's a lot of things in this movie that is just super relatable. So I think it was a pretty good film. I definitely enjoyed it. Honestly, because it's the kind of film I don't seek out, it was rewarding for it to be very good. Because I usually have like pretty low expectations, like this is gonna be a bore, and it was like, nah, this was really good. So,
like a personal half foreign language movie. Like, Philip, what do you got me watching here?
Yeah, but it ended up being a pretty fantastic film. So very good.
I'd second that. I mean, I actually did find it heartwarming at the end of the day. I came full circle to that.
I did the next day. My viewing was extra non-optimal because like I was watching it partially on my tablet. They had sound problems. Then I had to finish it on my phone. Not even like a tablet or a laptop. It was terrible. It was terrible.
That's like, a bummer.
It's an abomination.
So Trevor was talking about.
That's why it didn't warm his heart.
He thought it was like
watching on a cold phone screen.
He thought it was going to be heartwarming because all the ads I was seeing was like how life affirming and that. Like I was expecting a feel good film, and. Like after the first half hour, I was like, "Oh no, this guy's gonna fail, and like a bunch of these people are gonna die." Like I was just like, "This is a major bummer." But like the next day, I was like, "I really loved it." Like I don't know, I was just not prepared right for it, and I had a terrible viewing experience. I would love to see it again in a theater
because I actually do think a feel good movie fits the bill. I don't know. What would you say, Rhett?
Yeah, I would say so. I think the bar for like feel good family movies has changed. So like we see so many like bleak movies about family and like broken family, and we see so many of those that like anything that is remotely healthy, even if there is dark stuff in there like this movie has, it feels like a rare kind of refreshing like affirmation of family, because it is rare. There's not a ton of movies out there that are just like straightforward celebrations of the haven that is family. That's one idea that like I took away from this movie, is just kind of the idea of a family unit being a safe haven in a world that is foreign, in a world that is hostile, in a world that can kind of eat you alive if you go it alone. And the gift of family, it's really a gift from God for us as individuals, that we can go through this life with people in a family, three generations in this case, who it's kind of this interdependence where they kind of all give each other something. And so more than most movies that I've seen, I think Minari captured that dynamic of like the gift and the haven of family. Which it isn't perfect, and there's tension among the family unit at times, but ultimately they're for each other, and they recognize that like if we're not for each other, then it's going to be hard to survive in this world. And I think there was like an interchange with the mom and the dad, Jacob and Monica, where they talked about like how at one point they said they were going to save each other. Do you remember that line?
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting. It was almost like taking it too far, right? Where the family becomes almost like salvific, like a substitutionary kind of savior.
Yeah.
And how that ultimately will fail you. And so there's a good element of family and how it kind of, can help us survive in this world, but it can't be your it can't be your savior, and you have to kind of seek that in a transcendent source, which the movie doesn't it isn't too on the nose with the faith element, but it's there. And and Isaac Chung, the director, has said in interviews that like faith in the Bible was probably the single biggest influence on him, even more than like autobiography or like kind of an immigrant journey. Like this is a biblical theological story.
So the two you've already hit on them both, Brett. I think the two themes that were the strongest to me in watching and thinking about it were what it has to say, what he was trying to say about the American dream, and then the power of a family and like what genuine, familial, like unconditional love means and looks like. And that's probably part of, as a viewer, a lot of the things that we intake in pop culture and in classic film and just film in general, film and television, you don't really have a true sense of like a biblical definition of the word love there. So when you see a family going through so much turmoil, I'm just thinking, I'm used to viewing, like when I'm seeing something on a screen, it is not coming from a place of like biblical love and true like commitment to one another. So I was just waiting for everything to fall apart. But I think what I was thinking about, I was talking to Trevor the next day after I saw it, I go, okay, like, it wasn't that it was just a big bummer, but it really, in his pursuit of the American dream, which we can definitely get into, and we've talked about some of those themes on the show in the past, just the way our society is structured for various people and how we view success and what it means and what it takes to get successful, like, and the hardships of that. I wasn't ready for his family on screen to really be there and support him, and it really was refreshing to see that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think he was saying about the American dream?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a complicated assessment of the American dream. I don't think it's I don't think it's all negative, and I don't think it's all positive, right? There's some movies that are like straight up critique of the American dream, like it's all a sham, like it's destructive, and this isn't that. And but it's also not like a schmaltzy like an old school celebration of the American dream. So it's a mixed bag, and I think the thing that I take away from it is that there's greatness in the optimism and the American kind of spirit of like anyone can kind of go anywhere and have a go of it. But it's not to say that that's going to be instant success or instant happiness. And it's both external pressures that make that hard, but also internal pressures. And you take yourself with you wherever you go. So even if you're thinking life's going to be better over here and the grass is going to be greener in Arkansas than it is in California, which it probably is, being a Californian.
Actually greener.
Our land is very brown.
Do you guys have grass in California?
Yeah.
We do, but it's only like artificially watered. It's not naturally green. But yeah, I mean, I think that's something that this story really gets at is we can have these ideas of like the dream and this paradise and Eden. And again, this is not exclusive just to America, right? It's a human pursuit. We all humans are always kind of nomadically searching for greener pastures and a place they can call home, and they can finally kind of be at peace and flourish. And that's both a good ambition because it's what we've been wired to want. That's the whole like haunting of Eden idea. But it's also dangerous if we kind of think too naively that it's going to be perfect, right? That there aren't going to be hiccups and challenges along the way. And so the movie ends. The movie ends in like, it's not like a perfectly happy ending, right? It's like a small triumph. They've made it through, They're able to get by at the end. They're able to get by. They survived this fire, right? No one died. It's not a total loss, but the dream hasn't been realized yet. That's certainly, it's still in process and it's open-ended. But
I had forgotten. I thought the dad was maybe going to be in peril at the end too. I was like, at every stage of the movie, I was like,
who's going to die?
Who's going to die? How is this going to go horribly bad?
I wanted to talk to, and just to jump into a moment on the American dream, because the film depicts this scene where he finally has got it. Like literally everything goes right for them at this one sequence. We find out that the kid is getting better. He's able to find a vendor for his crops, which he had some trouble with. And so it looks like everything is coming together. And humorously, the end of the film really messes with that idea because it's at that moment that the family's at the worst state. That's how I read it. They were at their lowest point because now it seems as if he's going to be successful in his pursuit, but Jacob's not on the same page as Monica is with this whole venture and also how to pursue it and the manner in which he's going after it. To her feels like it's to the exclusion of family. And so the fact that he's succeeded in the American dream for her actually is painful. And it brings him to this point of tension. So I found that just really interesting, that the achievement of opportunity, success, the dream isn't as important as the steps you took and the path that you walked to get there.
And the people that you walk with on that path.
Or walk over.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's in the review that we published at the Gospel Coalition of this movie, I didn't write it. My good friend Eugene Park, who's himself a son of Korean immigrants, Korean American Christian, he viewed this movie obviously through lots of personal lenses. But in his review, he talked about this idea of cultivating a garden. That's kind of the dream of Eden, right? Adam and Eve were like supposed to be cultivating this garden, but that cultivation isn't just meant to be this economic level where it's like, flourishing on making money and being economically successful. It's like a holistic vision of flourishing. And so that's what Jacob, I think, comes to discover in this film is the dream, the American dream, the existential dream has to be as much about cultivating yourself as a human and your family and your relationships as it is about cultivating the land to be healthy and fruitful, right? So unless you're doing both, it's going to be a lost cause. So that's what I think you're getting at, Trevor, with they're the most successful on paper with their farm, but interrelationships in the family aren't doing well. And so that's the kind of breaking point for him and Monica.
Yeah.
A lot of reviewers, and she's personally won probably the most awards. A lot of people are talking about the grandmother's performance. She was incredible. She's
so good,
legendary Korean actor Yoo Jung-yoon. And I was listening to a podcast. I don't think I was reading that one. With Lee Isaac Chung talking about how she was kind of the archetypical, the wise fool. She was the one coming in like cursing and being difficult and
watching wrestling,
sitting watching wrestling during the day and kind of ignoring the children when she was supposed to be watching them. But also, she was the one that really helped encourage Monica and help her. She brought her gifts, and ultimately she brought the Minari that ended up saving them in the end. So just kind of how that the person with the outside perspective, who can be often viewed as uncouth or like other or less than, she really was kind of the key to the whole thing.
Yeah, my boss calls that unconscious competence.
But I just thought Trevor mentioned that before, her and the son, I just thought were like, that is still stuck with me. I've only got to watch it once. I didn't get to rewatch it. And just that relationship, and you don't need to be a Korean immigrant to really resonate with that. I imagine if any of our listeners watch that will be a performance and a relationship that'll stick with you.
Yeah, the scene where she's laying down with him at night, right? When I forget what catalyzed that, but it's just a really beautiful, tender shot of her kind of comforting him.
Yeah, I think that was the part where she was asking why he was laying awake, and he said he had already, his mom previously told him to pray to see
go to heaven.
And she did pray, or he did pray.
Heaven.
And then he was like, what if I go to hell? And he was like, well, are you thinking about that now? And then she kind of comforted him. It's like, who's got my kid here, like being so fearful in this moment? And then she even sings the Minari song that he made up to him, which was super tender, and just a sweet, very, very sweet moment.
Totally. Yeah, she brings like total wisdom to the film, and the fact that the Minari, just the whole thing with that is her contribution, and it just speaks to her own life. She's lived way more life than any character in the film, and she's proven that resilience, that ability to kind of flourish alongside whatever water source she's near, and that's the wisdom of any older generation that has lived through a lot more life than we have. It's like you can do more than you think you can do, right? We're more resilient than we think.
Yeah, the scene at the end where the kid, because she's had the stroke, she's out of it, she's walking away from the house, and the young kid runs, which he's not supposed to do because he's got a heart murmur, but it's the first time in the film he just takes off and books it after her to stop her,
to save her. Yeah,
and because it's kind of this moment where he's been resisting all of his grandma's affection the entire movie,
or lack thereof, just the tough love of the older generation.
Well, she doted on him in ways that the parents, were a little bit stricter, and she was kind of like, yeah, whatever, let him be this and that, and he still was kind of giving her the cold shoulder, but that was the moment where he really was embracing her, and that was emotional.
That really was.
That was an emotional scene.
Also worried about his safety again. I was like, they better not do that.
I thought he was going to die.
So they better not do that.
It was 90 minutes of being worried for their safety.
The one thing that made me comforted as I watched the movie that the boy wasn't going to die is that I was pretty sure this was an autobiographical story where the director, the boy was him. So he's obviously alive today. So
outside the narrative background knowledge helped out.
That is good thinking. I knew that actually, but in the movie I was like, no, please don't do this to me as I watch on my iPhone. This terrible viewing experience. So Vince reminded me about the dream stuff too. There was a lot of interesting faith elements to this movie, and I've listened to a number of podcasts and just appearances, just kind of preparing for this episode, but I had not heard that he identified as a Christian and a person of faith. I mean, you have the dreams, praying to go to heaven. You got the super charismatic guy, Will Patton's character, and then you had Paul, like the stereotypical kind of just people kind of going through the motions, Bible Belt church. Like there's a lot of interesting, disparate depictions of faith, and I really wasn't sure exactly what they were trying to say, other than faith is an important aspect of life. Do you have any insights on that one, Brett?
Yeah, in the review we published at the Gospel Coalition, Eugene, who wrote the review, actually interviewed him, and I think in that interview he said something like, yeah, faith is a big part of the story, but I wanted it to be like kind of not heavy-handed at all, and just kind of there, but not hitting people over the head with it. He wanted the movie to be relatable to people on all sorts of levels, so not something that like only Christian Korean immigrants could relate to, but like like humans. Like here's the quote from one of his things he said to TGC. He said, "I made the film with a conviction and hope that we share much in common as human beings." He says sometimes Korean Americans can feel alienation in their communities due to race. They can feel alienation in their own families while navigating cultural and language barriers with older generations. My desire was to go beyond those apparent divisions and look for the human story within this film's setting and people. So as specific as it is to his story, and that's where the Christian elements probably come in, because that was his story. They were like a church-going Korean Christian family in Arkansas, so they really did probably go to like a evangelical church that was mostly white folks who were slightly racist and said
who'd never seen an Asian person before and didn't know how to talk to them.
Yeah. And those scenes are super uncomfortable, right? But that was his experience probably, and he doesn't have a hostility. I don't pick up like resentment or hostility from the film with regard to that experience. It's more just kind of like, it is what it is. This was my childhood.
Yeah, the way he portrayed their like subtle racism, it was more just like, these people are just kind of ignorant. They're not malicious. There wasn't any hate. Even like kind of the most extreme person was the boy's dad who he had the sleepover with. Like he was kind of a mess, but like still there was no like hatred or distaste of like Asians that you're also kind of bracing for that. You're like, oh man, like these people are going through it, but like just going through his life. Like these are people trying to express whatever their faith is in their own kind of way.
For sure. And I think they did a really great job of bridging the gap between faith and practicality, because you could see in the beginning, like Jacob was like, we use our minds, and where's the water, kind of, and this is how we find it. This is how we'll provide for our family. Like, this is how we're going to be able to do it. But then by the end, Paul's praying over the house and praying and wanting to pray for David, and also, like using the stick to find the water. And you could even still see some reluctance in Jacob at the end, but it was still kind of bridging that gap where it's kind of like there's faith over here and then there's logic over here. And by the end, it kind of brings those two things together. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I thought that prayer scene was great. And it was interesting to watch Jacob like sincerely engaging in that, and like, maybe I do need to rely on supernatural help a little bit here. Like, I can't do this all on my own strength.
There's a far cry from when the character was saying all this stuff. He's like, oh, okay, well, let's keep working.
Yeah.
he was saying some pretty wild stuff.
No,
though.
yeah, to his credit, I would have probably said the same
no,
thing.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right.
There was definitely some tongues and some hallelujah stuff.
Yeah.
And
when he offered him the cigarette, that was very, very good.
Oh, the cigarette
that
was
made me
amazing.
laugh a lot.
Yeah.
That was actually really funny.
Bridging that gap, I hadn't actually seen that, Vincent. And thinking back to that church scene, it is just awkward too. I mean, there's definitely the immigrant side of it, but just being a visitor to a church is awkward.
Yeah, it can be.
It's always those weird initial conversations on, trying to find some sort of connection point with this person because you want to be welcoming and you want that connection, and they went there for that reason, right?
Yeah, they went there
Jacob
to be
said,
connected.
"Hey, we want I know you don't have any friends here, so let's go to church."
Which is another interesting thing. You don't see that a lot in movies, and Minari was a great movie, and it wasn't like a beating you over that like. These Christian movies, man, they keep coming out. Like, we got some really good ones the last few years here.
Yeah, it was good, definitely. So when you're talking about Paul and the praying scene, kind of praying over it, one of the things he does is he goes into the room to cast out this demon where the grandmother was fixated on this dresser drawers, and it seemed like she was thinking there was the snake there. She talked about don't scare it or he'll hide. And it's better if he's out in the open. And there had been a snake when they were planning the Minari out by the creek. They had talked about snakes and don't go down there because there's snakes, and they see a snake. He's about to throw a rock at the snake. And they say, hey, don't do that because it's better to have it out in the open where you can see it. I just felt like he was doing something there with just problems. I didn't know if it was a reference to the heart murmur. What were your guys' take on that snake element in the film? Was there something that you think there was bigger going on there?
I had some very simple thinking with that. I thought for sure Paul was going to get bitten by a snake. And so I was just like, bro, don't touch that drawer.
We were all afraid for this family.
Everybody.
Minari, I think we were all a little bit on edge with that.
Yeah.
Well, I know Isaac, when he was a kid, he said like he put that in because he used to throw rocks at snakes when he was at the riverbed there. I wasn't necessarily taking the snake specifically as metaphor imagery, but I think that you can, just that principle of things that are dangerous are better to be out in the open. Like, I think you could apply that to loads of things. I think that's just a really good truism there in general.
Yeah.
We can kind of go around the horn here, but as the professional critic, what's your pitch for somebody who hasn't seen this, somebody who's somebody who kind of goes to see big movies in the theater, like the big spectacles? Why should a blockbuster goer see Minari? What could they get out of it?
The pitch for the movie for people who are used to blockbusters, I don't know. I think it's just it's an example of like movies that get you outside of your own experience. So this is a story that was far from my personal experience, even though I grew up in Oklahoma, which is near Arkansas, and I grew up Christian. I didn't have the same experience that this particular family had, the immigrant part of their story, So I think that's an argument for any like indie film or, foreign films from different cultural backgrounds, different experiences, right? It's empathy building. It stretches your understanding of the world, but also shows you that there's more we have in common. It's a universal story. Like he said in the interview that I quoted from TGC, this is about things humans all share, and particularly the longing for Eden idea of restlessness. We're strangers and exiles in this world, longing for a better country, to quote Hebrews 11. That's a big kind of universal human theme, I think, that this movie picks up on. And so see it, because it's going to like give you a window into a world that is far from your world, possibly, but also close to your world in ways that you might not expect.
Awesome.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's good.
So we mentioned this before on the podcast. You have a new book out. Is there anything that you where can folks find you? And is there anything, what do you have to plug on the horizon here?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a plug for my new book, The Wisdom Pyramid. Just came out. It's just about trying to find wisdom in the chaos of the digital age, the information age, how to build a diet of healthy like media intakes. So it's riffing on the food pyramid, basically. So you can find that on Amazon or anywhere you buy books. So we'll love if some people picked it up.
Yeah, I love the imagery of just the diet. I know, Philip, you've listened to the whole thing. I'm planning on diving into this pretty shortly, and discernment is a evergreen topic for sure. So thanks for
writing, like, again, we've had so many great books that we've talked about on the show recently. Thanks for writing like a short, accessible book that you can just hand to folks.
It's my shortest book, so I'm proud of that.
Folks don't need to write. Like, you can get it done in 200 pages for a wide audience. Like, the fewest best words. I always appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, I love me a well-researched tome also.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
But for things like this, what you're talking about is definitely what the doctor ordered. For sure. That's good. So, Brett, this is probably an old hat for you by this time, having been on here 2 previous times. But as our we may have some new listeners on here who don't know, we do substance shout-outs at the end, which is just a chance for our guests and us to kind of share some things that we've been listening to or watching or reading that's just been encouraging to us. So what are some movies or TV shows or podcasts or books that you've really been enjoying recently?
Yeah, man, that question is always so open-ended that it paralyzes me. So let me think. There's so much I could say. I've been watching The Chosen season 2 and enjoying that. So
nice.
I'm a big
fan.
A
lot about that.
I'm a big fan of The Chosen because it's like the rare Bible series that's actually decently good quality.
Yeah,
and that's to be celebrated.
I keep hearing about Chosen. I still need to check it out.
That's what I keep saying.
Have none of you watched it?
No.
You gotta watch it.
Did KSP say something about
Jesse
it?
most recently in our last couple episodes with him.
So I've been cheering it on since it started last year, and was hoping that season 2 wouldn't be like a regression in quality, and so far it hasn't been. So
nice.
So awesome. That's good. Let's see, music. I've been really into Andy Squires. Have either of you heard of him?
I haven't.
He's like a Christian. I think he's somewhere on the East Coast, but he had his like debut. Actually, I don't know if it's his debut album, but it's called Poet Priest.
Poet Priest. Interesting.
It came out a couple months ago, but it's really quality. Kind of like John Guerra. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's another like Christian indie artist, singer-songwriter, but just good examples of like the Christian music industry kind of in the independent space is producing some really quality stuff these days. So Andy Squires. Let's see if there's any other like shout outs I can give. Movies, I feel like I haven't seen. I mean, it's a weird time for movies because what's coming out. I mean, theaters are starting to open, but I recently watched The Father, which Anthony Hopkins won the Best Actor award for. Nice. And that was amazing. Kind of a devastating movie, very sad, but beautifully acted and beautifully done. So
Nice.
he's like one of the great all-time actors, and I think this very well might have been, his best performance or one of them. So recommend that one.
What did he win?
He won Best Actor.
Best Actor.
Anthony Hopkins. Yeah.
Wow.
It was
Still got it.
I mean, it was unexpected because I don't know. I don't get the Oscars and the whole expectations and the hype and who is supposed to win. Like it's become too predictable, I think, with like the awards show season. Like by the time you get to the Oscars, it's kind of like a foregone conclusion.
Well, excellent. Brett, thanks again for the time. And also this recommendation, I guess, that through both of you guys, I actually really enjoyed it. I watched it by myself, but I think I might end up sharing it with the wife as well, because I think she would love some of the family elements. So listeners, if you haven't had a chance to yet, check it out. It is heartwarming.
It is heartwarming.
If you listen all the way to the end,
it's holistic.
It shows the spoilers.
Holistic.
Nobody dies.
It's not rose-colored glasses. It's real struggles that they go through. But in the end, genuinely
family wins. In the end, they make a choice to be together, to put aside differences. That's what I loved about that final scene. Where they're all sleeping together in the same living room. They had talked about doing that in the beginning, but it was like these little quibbles on, no, we're going to do that. And then
because it was fake, it was forced. They were not together when they first got to Arkansas, but at the end, they were genuinely united.
Literally like forged through fire. So
for sure.
Boom.
Awesome.
All right.
Brett, thank you for this third appearance.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Maybe we'll switch back to Malik next time.
We still got to do Thin Red Line. Yeah,
Thin Red Line and The New World are still on deck sometime.
Always say yes to a chance to talk about those movies. So,
awesome.
And Malik's Jesus movie, when that comes out in 10 years,
we can't not talk about that.
Right?
Gotta.
Yeah. Play the Infinite game. Stay around long enough to do that when that comes out.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good night, Brett.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. All right, guys. That was Brett McCracken joining us for our Substantive Cinema review of Minari.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. If you like what we do here and you want to support us, other than subscribing and sharing with your friends, which is a thing we absolutely would like you to do, and if you haven't written us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, please feel free to do that as well. But if you want to join us in regular support, the Anchor link in the show notes is where you can sign up to donate at any monthly amount that makes sense. We're starting to get some donors. We're pretty excited. We don't have any... We're trying not to plan bigger than we're able to, but we'd like to get the website going. We have a number of different goals. So one of the goals, actually, we've shared this before, we would love to get 20 $4.99 monthly supporters by the end of the year. If we could get $100 coming in a month, we could kind of get a couple of other things in play. So if you can do $5 a month for 4 and change shows a month, that would be great. Or if monthly support is not your bag, you can hit us on Cash App at $TheSubstancePod. You got that good tax return, you want to kick a little bit our way, hit us up on Cash App.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Substance Pod. There you are going to find all substance-related content. You will find our giveaways. You are going to find our substance shout-outs for ourselves or our guests. You're going to be able to engage with us. There we can have conversations, or if you want to make your own posts, you can definitely tag us on that and get our attention. But go ahead and follow us on the socials.
We are looking forward also to hearing your ideas, your interactions, your testimonials on ways that the substance has challenged your thinking or encouraged you at our email, thesubstancepod@gmail.com, or you can let us hear your voice on our phone line, 913-703-3883. Drop us a line on there and you may end up on the show. Thanks for joining us this week, and we will see you again next time
on The Substance.
Peace.
Hey, we're glad you guys joined us.
Hey.
If you, I didn't realize what we were doing. All right. Well, I guess we got the bumper out of the way.
Good. I wasn't going to say a thing.
You can't let that go.
I guess we got the outtakes taken care of. You racist.
Oh, my man.
Hey, you like this?
Anti-Italian discrimination going on right now. All right.
Oh, man.
Hey,
All right.
you haven't left us a 5-star review. What's the matter with you?
Wow.
Yo, chill. Hey, follow us. Geesh. Okay.
Excuse Thanks for joining us again this week, as we say. Thanks for joining. Thanks.
As they say. Thank you.
As folks say. Thanks.
Thank you, as they say.
Hey.
All right.
Dude, not bad. Success.
Great success.
All your tracks have uploaded, and now it's safe to close this tab, you big liar.
It says 94%.
A big fat liar on that one.
It's like, yeah, it's all done.
It's all done. Close it.
Close the program.
Close it, you noob.
No. Get that away from me in the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus, get that away. Choo.
You crazy, man. You crazy.
Just don't pass those cigarettes to me.
Okay, just do it. Okay.